Good evening, everybody. So glad to see you
Evening.
all today. So let's get started. Today we have with us uh, PDD Brenda Maynard, DTM, who started her Toastmasters journey in 2013 at a Swarliga Corporate Toastmasters Club. She last served as the district director of District 81 in 2020-2021. She has complete credit to bring District 81 to the third in world overall and acquiring the Smedley Distinguished District for the first time in District 81's history. Brenda also received world ranking as being the best district in the Western Hemisphere, the second best district in Membership Retention Award. Her district has 20 plus member awards. Her district has it's District 81 under her leadership received third most distinguished clubs award and the number one district in membership payment and Toastmaster International District Achievement Award. So today we have her share the secret of her success in District 81 and see what District 101 can learn from her. So over to you, Brenda.
Thank you so much for the, sorry, my camera. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share with 101. And I thank you for the invitation, Raji. And I most definitely want it to be interactive. And so you can stop me at any time, ask a question so I can elaborate. One of the things that I did constantly was to revisit my goals. And so I actually started from Club Growth Director with a 5-year plan because I thought for 6 years, our district had not been distinguished. So I was like, what can we do? So as Club Growth Director, we still was not distinguished, but we got third in the world in retention because the team and my team was 40 members strong. And the reason that is because in the Caribbean, we are all 28 separate islands with 28 different governments, and it was crazy. It was COVID, and the Caribbean is dependent on tourism. And so for me, it was how do we maneuver and make sure that we get this done? And so once we had gotten third in the world, we came from 74 in the world to third in the world in retention. Because as club growth director, I not only looked at new clubs, because it's easier to retain what you have than to get new members. And so we actually went into persons who had not renewed and we asked them why you didn't renew or come back. We did one-on-one, we had pathway buddies. The district also had a tech team that assists the clubs in maneuvering the Zoom platform. And so we had, actually I asked the I for 5 Zoom accounts and they thought I was crazy, but they actually granted it to me because I saw the ability for the district to share, because I don't think we really need to compete as areas. We need to collaborate for the success of the district. And so I realized that our membership was burnt out in terms of trainings and all these other things. So what we did was strategically to do trainings across the board so that you don't have repetitive. So if we did parliamentary procedures, we made it a district training. And so then all the different divisions didn't have to do it. All the clubs didn't have to do it. And so we tried to strategically put in place what we thought the district needed. As PQD, one of the things, and I was just talking to Abhijit, was that it is imperative that you have 20 plus. And so we are halfway in the year now. So we have from December to June. And one of the things to look at is how strong are your clubs? You divide it in those who are 20 plus, so they're good. So what you do is encourage them to retain their members, put an incentive in place, early payment, or clubs that can get all their members to renew for the next payment. And we did incentives that didn't cost money. We just featured them on Facebook. We put them in the newspaper. And so it was more of, we call it bragging rights, and you want to see your name up there. So because you know how the Toastmaster store was, so we could not um, get any tangible goods. So we worked around it. And what we did was look at the 20 plus. And from now, because we already did Smedley, so we have Talk Up Toastmaster and Beat the Clock. Those are incentives that we did. We added a twist to it. So I had TikTok Beat the Clock. And so what I asked them to do was, instead of getting 5, get 2 more, and then you got a district distinction. So you got the 5 for Toastmaster, and then you got 2 more for the district. So we aimed at 7. And so the clubs work towards 7 versus 5. And so that encouraged members um to be able to actually work towards having their clubs be distinguished at that point, or 20 plus. And the 20 plus is an automatic, the numbers come in automatic once you have charter strength. Now, one of the things that we did as a club was to, as clubs, was to initiate in the areas a president's club. And so all that was all the presidents of that area came together, and they did an incentive where every month one person would host a meeting, and that president would then make sure that we had a location, but we had a role player, we had a speech, we had an evaluator, and we also had interactions on how we could collaborate as presidents to make sure that all our clubs in the area would then be successful. And so that allowed the presidents to partake in the development of their clubs. Because a lot of times when we get to leadership, we ask people to do stuff, but we ourselves don't do it. And I think that we need to lead by example. And so we initiated a triple crown. All presidents had to get a triple crown. And we said you can't ask the members to be active and you're not active. So lead by example. So the triple crown was really a big thing, and the district gave them a pin. And that helped with the PQD role, because then all your educational stuff came in. So that's something the clubs can do, to have members actually look at the triple crown. One of the things that maybe for next year is that, you know, we have the double cap and we have the triple cap, where if you do members at a certain time, you get double points for it. And I think that is Toastmasters' biggest kept secret. I don't understand why they wouldn't. If you look on the website, there's nowhere that you can find that, but it's actually in place. So I did a whole workshop on the triple cap and the double cap, where you utilize the membership payment at that time to grow your membership. And so that's something I can always come back and share with you guys and stuff like that. But it is mainly about revisiting your goals. What do you want, Raji, for your club? What do you want your club? Because I always feel that as a district leader, that my club has to be representative of the fact that I'm a leader. So I'm in 4 clubs, and all 4 president distinguished, because I feel like I can't lead the district if my own home club is not doing well. And so those are things that we look into. We ask the club officers to ensure that each club officer does at least 2 levels, because that way you are making the club healthy, but you're also motivating your members. And of course, most of them went for the triple crown. I think our district had 532 persons doing the triple crown, which is really great for the educational level. And even with clubs that were not doing well and couldn't pay, I told them there is the antidote 8. There are 8 members that definitely can keep the club on the level that it is still in Toastmasters recognition, because that is your 7 officers plus your IPDD. So there's no club for me. I was like, there should not be any club under 8. And so once we had broken down those clubs that didn't renew, we went to them and said, listen, you have a board, and let the board members all pay their dues plus the IPDD, and you get back on TI as a registered club, and then we can go into looking at coaches for you, go into a membership program, but you need to make sure that the club is at TI's level to be within the club and to be established as a club. And so that is something within the clubs that you have to make sure that you do. The clubs have to, the officers of the club have to be the ones who pay their dues first. They have to be the ones on the club level that motivate their members, because you need to lead by example. So once the president and the 7 other board members are actively involved in doing what they need to do to ensure that, one, they have their personal goals in place, they can then motivate the other club members to actually achieve. One of the things we wanted to do was a buddy system where, for instance, the president had a one person that they asked to follow them and train that person to be the next president. So if you have 8 persons and then you get a buddy system for all 8 officers, you have already 16 members. 16 members that are interacting and working towards your goal. And it's easy to get 4 more, and it's easier to have them bring in persons on a club level. Once you get the clubs to work towards their personal goals, then it trickles up to the area and then to the division, and of course then to the district, because you then don't have to work as hard. You work smarter, because if each club works towards developing a charter strength club and having educational processes done there, you will find that your area will be better, your district will be actually better, but not you as the actual district leaders doing the work. So we definitely need to get our clubs motivated. The members are, we need to actually show the value of the program for the members. And so we were very much into showing them as a corporate club where you can pull out things that you can then develop yourself and then have it as a enhancement. We also asked the HR to give bonuses. For instance, if someone did a level, completed a triple crown, they got an extra bonus in December and stuff like that. So we worked with the corporations to motivate the members and the clubs to actually achieve. And basically every single club should, I know there's a success plan and everything, but each club has their own logistics, and what works for one club does not work for the other. And so it took a lot of effort to individualize each club and to put them then in categories, those that were strong, those that we have clubs that only 7 members carry the entire club. Their president distinguished, but it's only 7 members that actually are doing roles and are doing things. We wanted to get everyone actively involved in doing what is supposed to be done, because then the members are burnt out. And so there is a lot of,
Yeah. Brenda, how can we increase the engagement at the club level? Like a couple of things you said was be a role model. As an officer, you should be a role model, complete your at least 2 levels. Then at the club level, make sure you have a buddy system
Mhm.
instituted in the club, because once you have a buddy system, it makes a big difference. What are the other things you can do to increase the
actually have
engagement at the club level?
actually have your presidents go through a training of how do we manage our club? How do we get our members to come out? Do you know that, because the presidents are the ones that lead the club. What are the logistics in your club? If you don't see a member, do you reach out and say, why you didn't come to a meeting? What do you have established as a president to make sure that your members feel that they're not only there to gain DCP points, but they're actually there to work on their own personal journey? And so you say, what do you want to get out of Toastmasters? And you assist them. But the job is for the president to actually know their members and to engage and to reach out to the members. we did things like birthdays. So you show that it was just a club family. It's just not about um, getting the goals. We did anniversaries, anything that a member could um, celebrate, we celebrated as a club. Because once you get the buy-in that the club is a safe haven for learning, a safe haven for reaching out. You know, when a member does not come for a while, there's usually an issue. What is that issue? How can we help to mitigate what is happening in your life? And reaching out and letting them know that they're not just there to do goals so that you can achieve your goals. Because a lot of times we call members and say, did you do a level 1? You didn't ask how was your day. I didn't see you last week. What do you want to do with a level 1? How does it affect you? And so our language and how we approached the persons in our club gives them the buy-in to really want to be part of the club. And so those were some of the things that we did.
I think you made a great point of talking about personal connection at a club level, such that the club officers are connecting with members personally as well, not just saying, "Hey, your educational goals are due. You did not become a club officer and extras." I think that's an excellent point. Just to add on, I had something else at a club level that I wanted to ask about. So now that we invite all these club officers or district-wide members to come join our meetings, but a lot of times meetings are, or members in the meetings are struggling to fill up roles. So how do we make sure folks are stepping up to fill up roles? Meetings are actually interesting such that the guests who are coming in do want to keep coming back and not just pay a one-time visit and say, hey, they're not well organized. So how can we mitigate that? Do you have
What
any
we did,
unique ideas that we can do in our meetings?
what we did was to collaborate with other clubs. And so if I needed table topic master, I would get it from another club. And so to ensure that the club experience was fulfilled. And so if I am the VPE, so I go out and I say, okay, all of these are role players. And if I don't have one, I reach out to another club, or I reach out to another district, or I reach out to another division and I say, listen, can you play a role? And what that has done for us was to give a different perspective, because different people do things differently. So for instance, we never had a joke master. And so when the person came and did joke master, the clubs were like, oh, we can do that. So once you see that the members are the same members doing the roles, then the VPE can reach out to others and invite them to do roles, because that is assists the other person also in gaining their Toastmaster experience. So that is one of the things that we do very often. We call in other persons to do roles within the club, and it makes the meeting interesting. And then some of our members come back, and we always try to have at least 2 members that would do a speech, and then we would have another person do a speech. And so it, you know, it encourages them to come, and it makes your meeting well run. And especially for new persons who come in like, okay, because they don't know, they're all Toastmasters, so they don't know if Raji belongs to Swaliga or Clark belongs to another club. They just know it's a Toastmasters meeting, and that's the concept that we used.
Thank you for sharing that. Just as a follow-up question to that, you mentioned the role of joke master being unique to a club and not being done often. What are the other things that you have seen which are unique and done only at few clubs and not at every club, but they work pretty well?
One of the things is that because of the Zoom platform, they do, for instance, after the table topics, they actually have the Zoom platform will then do a test to see who was the best person that answered. And so everybody can vote and have that done. I thought that one person came in our club and did that. We never did that before. So that was something we definitely picked up on. And one of the other things was to have keynote speakers about various topics. And so what we did as VPEs, because we all sat as VPEs and say, listen, what are some of the interesting topics that we can have? I'm a corporate club. So for instance, I did expansion to the different divisions. In October, we did Health is Wealth, and we brought in somebody who was a cancer survivor, and that was our keynote speaker. So we kind of engage with a community and things that affect person's life on an everyday basis to encourage members to want to come to the meetings.
Wow. Did anyone have any questions at this point? Go ahead, Yumi.
Yes, thank you, Brenda, for like all your lessons. My question is a real question from like one of our members. So that member asked me, how will Toastmaster, like all the training program, the meeting roles, and the pathway program, help with his career growth? And I was really struggling to answer this question because in my club, we don't have a role model to showcase the power of Toastmaster. So I wonder if you have any like good ideas to like answer this question.
One of the things that I do and I talk about is, for instance, impromptu speaking, just being able to answer a question. If your boss asks you a question, can you answer and actually formulate the thought process of impromptu speaking to get the idea across? Do you would you be able to then present if you were asked to present as a boss? So what Toastmasters does is actually help you to engage and actually charter your path. So for instance, with us, if you tourism is our biggest money maker in the Caribbean. So what we did was to go to each part and pull out for a bartender, how do you engage? How do you coach? How do you talk to somebody? And we said, as a bartender, you need to be able to engage because you need to have that person sit at the bar and be willing to buy drinks. So you need to be pleasant. You need to be able to have a table topic session where you can ask them, where you can engage. For some persons who are the ones that do sales, how do you better market your sales? And we went into the different parts and saw which ones actually did that. Motivational strategy is a very good one in terms of how you do strategic planning within your organization. So it's actually that you have these 11 parts and you need to connect with it, or we did it as a district to actually see and break it down into the different career roles and how we could how you say inform a person on, if you want to do this, then start with this path because it will then reflect more on your career. So I don't know if that member is in a particular career.
He's a software engineer.
Oh, well, then we have, of course, we have, for instance, with software, you need to be able to do research. You need to be able to go out there and test if the product is working. You need to get persons to buy in to look at a software and developed and say, this is a new idea. I want you to get into it. And you need to be able to engage that person. So those are things that you can tell that person who would then see Toastmasters as an opportunity to prepare you to be able to present and negotiate and talk about your product.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
As a VP, how can I encourage people to give speeches, Brenda?
The VPE role is a role that makes you want to pull your hair out. This year I am the VPE, and honestly, I'd be like, ah. So what I do is that I did a year plan for the VPE, where I did all the topics I wanted to do for every meeting. I did the word of the day for every meeting, and then I tied it into, like I said, different things that was happening in our part of the world. Whether it is, we had Carnival the other day, we had St. Martin's Day, which is our independence celebration. So I do a lot of team meetings with different teams. And so I had them wear their cultural dresses for the November meeting because that was our independence day. And we actually got experts in every area to always be one person. And then I encourage the members. I said, listen, if you do this by done, and I use the Triple Crown, that's for me one of my best sellers, to actually get them to do speeches. And what I do is, if you at the meetings, if because I have the list for the whole year of what you want to do and my different topics, I actually say, well, if you don't come to this meeting, I'm putting you down for next week, or I'm putting you down for our next session. And I ask them, would you like to go to another club if you want to finish um your path? Or I ask another club, would you like to come to my club to be able to fulfill your path? And so I have a combination always of maybe a featured speaker, a member, one or two members of the club, and another sister club would then send somebody so that I actually have it done. And so I tell them, I said, if you're allowing other persons to use our platform to get their goals, then you need to also utilize the platform. But it takes a lot of calling, and yes. And so what I do is I would send via WhatsApp all the rules to the members. Every time we have a meeting, I send the Toastmasters rules to them, and I say, pick one, do one, and try to get them engaged.
One thing I'm learning from you, Brenda, is you plan everything.
Yes.
As a club
Plan.
officer, also, if we plan, we can make a difference.
You can. And we have 7 members on our team as club officers, and you need to utilize that team in order to motivate your persons. I mean, I tell my sergeant at arms, she's the most important person because she is the face that the new person would see, especially now that we're going back in-person meetings. But even on the Zoom platform, I was like, you don't get away. You still have to do your sign up book. You still have to make sure the flag is there. You still have to treat it on the Zoom platform as if you're actual sergeant of arms. Our secretary would take minutes, would make sure that we know what happened in the meeting and actually utilize the rules. Because sometimes we just have the rules and we don't actually do the rules, and that does not help the club. If everyone takes their rules seriously and see what they can contribute to the development of the club with that particular role, it helps. So when we have board meetings, it is about how are we going to plan? What can we do differently? How are we going to do these things? And we meet every Monday, we meet, and it's half an hour meetings, but just like, how was your week? What are we doing? Are you going to do a project? Who can we get? We go back to our plans for the year. What are the meetings? The president then looks at how we are advancing and tells each board member what she thinks that they should do to, enhance their role and to collectively make the club a better place to go.
Thank you,
I think
Brenda. Yeah.
that's excellent. Having effective club council meetings to get all your club officers buy-in. Um, on the same note, especially with clubs which are already struggling with membership, the club officers are essentially the ones who are actively participating, and that sometimes lead to a burnout within the club officer. Though they're committed to Toastmasters, their journey, they start feeling burnout because they have to keep juggling multiple hats. So how do we keep them encouraged, and what would you suggest for club officers who are starting to feel burnt out or are already burnt out? So how can we
What
encourage them?
what we encourage each officer to combine and reach out to your other VPEs. So we have a VPE chat with all the VPEs in my district. So we get together and we say, listen, this is our struggles, this is how we do it. So all the Sergeant of Arms have a WhatsApp group with all the Sergeant of Arms, and they support each other and they, help each other to get by. And so that seemed to have been working. So each officer have their own group that they interact with. When the VPR, for instance, would put out a flyer, they would put it out, and then they would say, hey, it's not brand compliant, change it before you let it out, so that they have a team helping them with the same role. That so even though they feel burnt out, they feel as a VPE, I know that I have my other VPEs and that we're going through the same thing. And then we strategically plan how we can help each other. And so that seemed to have been working for us.
As a VPPR of the club, what can we do differently now since we are half digital and half in person?
One of the things that we thought of, well, as a district, like I said, we had a district tech team. So we had these group of persons that were well into technology that we dispersed among the district to help the clubs. And so what we did was to have the clubs actually have their own Zoom techs and to have their own persons involved in the club doing Zoom or hybrid. And so we are at the part now where if it's a hybrid meeting, what are the best things that we need? Some of the clubs don't have money. So for instance, if somebody has a camera, would you be able to get two persons to bring a camera to that meeting for that particular meeting for that other person? So we are sharing with each other because it's not easy. Some clubs, like for instance, we as a corporate club, we're on the budget of government. So we get $5,000 every year for travel or anything that we need to do. So most of the times that we have the government's tech team, the actual communication team, so we would assist our sister clubs if they needed to do anything. We do joint press conferences, and if something is coming up like Toastmaster Day, we did a joint press conference with all the club of VPRs, did a press conference together talking about the Toastmasters Day. So we have team building between the different clubs to engage and to, it's just a matter of you're not in this alone and what you think is unique to your club. We have a lot more in common that we have than we have differences. And so when people realize that, they're like, okay, so I am not only here, and it it gives them a little boost in continuing the year because our club officers and we rotate them. The same set of people then become another club officer role. And you want to get new people engaged. So we ask them to have a buddy system where you train somebody else to take over your role. So the secretary has somebody who takes notes with her, and then we ask, election is coming up soon. Would you like to take the role? And then that person then becomes the mentor of the person that was shadowing them. And so it's a win-win situation.
This is helpful, Brenda. Brenda, one more thing I've realized is in my club, I feel I need to do more recognition. In your
Sorry?
opinion, in my club, I need to do more recognition. What is the impact of recognizing members in the club?
One of my quotes is that success becomes automatic with a celebration of each little achievement. And I really live that. So we recognize people for, listen, it is crazy. We recognize people for everything. If you do a level, if you, we do the National Day, we recognize persons for everything. And it doesn't cost money, but it makes people feel good. When we do our DTM, we actually have an interview with the person who became a DTM. And we have a picture of them, and we have a write-up on our Facebook page about the person's journey. We put it in the newspaper, and so people are, I can't wait to be a DTM, and I want to get that possibility. We do clubs levels. We celebrate how many different levels. We just have the district would then have a small video with all the level ones. And then you'll be looking at the video, looking for your name and stuff like that. Those are things that motivate the members to do that. And you can also do it in your club level. Actually have your Facebook page and send it out. Our Facebook pages are connected to the district page. So then you can always send it to the district level. And people like that you do something in your club club and you're tagged to the district. So it is a bigger audience that actually see your achievement.
Wow, that's really nice of celebrating little wins, because yeah, sometimes it just makes you feel good to see your name up on a
Mhm.
Facebook post and getting some extra
Yeah.
publicity.
Yes.
So that's cool. So uh, which social media platforms have been working for you, and how often do you feel a club should keep engaging with their social media platform? Should it just be on the days of meetings, or how do we better use it?
Well, we do Facebook, we have Twitter, we have Instagram, and then we have the district. The district also have those three platforms. So we tag them. But what we do is after every meeting, we put up pictures after every meeting, and we do our flyers for the next meeting. We actually make it interactive. So my flyers are usually as VPE, they are videos. So I have this coming in. I use Canva and I do live flyers. So it's just not a page. And so I always make a little video of those, and then I send it to all the members. I send it to all our groups, the different groups we have, the VPE groups, so it is spread and so forth. So that you engage that way.
Did we have any questions in the room? Pamela, did you have a question?
I'm thinking this is such an amazing motivational talk. Then I wish more people would be coming from all the different clubs. How do you get people motivated to get themselves into all these wonderful training opportunities? Do you have any way to that you suggest that is really helpful to get more interest in what's out here for all of us, like this, for instance?
Yes, what we try to do is to look across the board on interesting things. So, for instance, in our district, we have a dynamic parliamentarian, and so other districts were using her. And then we met another one, so we had a combination of both of them. And so one did level 1 and one did level 2, but it is more of a lot of extra work. It is extra work in, especially for the officers in as VPE, getting to find out does the club want, how do you engage them. And so I use the non-meeting week to come up with different things that I want to do for the meeting week. And then during the meeting week, so we meet on Wednesdays in my club. And so the Wednesday before, I would have all the persons who at the last meeting said they wanted to do a role. And then I would go from there, okay, what am I missing? And how can I fill that out? And I would reach out to persons one-on-one on a constant basis. I haven't seen you doing a speech like the other day. I told my president, but you're doing a lot of roles. You owe me a speech. And she was like, okay, I'll do a speech next week. So actually keeping abreast of what the members are actually doing as a VPE and making sure that they see the value. Because once they see the value of doing a speech for themselves, you usually get them to do a speech willingly. And so, I told one person, especially in our club, that is a corporate club, um, at the end of the year in December, we have end of the year evaluations. How many self-development did you do? And they're like, oh. I say, you better get some speeches in so that you can finish a level, so that you can send it to the HR. I encourage non-corporate clubs to also use the HR cycle. And so what I do is I tell them you don't have to be a corporate club, but every person who works somewhere has a HR. And even though they don't know about Toastmasters, send in the letter we write, the district would sign for them, or the president would sign and say, this person is doing Toastmasters, which is a self-encouraging, self-developing program, and he or she has completed this. It doesn't matter if it's a corporate club, it is a HR, and most HRs look at it and say, oh, okay, and then they choose sometimes to use it as self-development, or they call and ask us a little bit more about Toastmasters and so on. And that's especially good for the one who asks about a career, where you can tell him, you know, you have a HR, send your levels to them, and they're seeing that you are doing self-development, because a lot of companies are looking for that. There's a lot of competition with being an employee, especially with this Zoom and this COVID period. So what I told people who are in Toastmasters was that this is a perfect opportunity for you to get a step ahead of the other employees in your company. It's not, it doesn't have to be a corporate club, but here you are, you're in the Zoom platform, but you're using it to grow self-development. And so we sent out letters saying this person is working on a path that, and we look at a company they're working at and we say, this is beneficial in him being able to present, him being able to do a sales pitch, him being able to do your elevator pitch, motivate your supervisors and stuff like that. So we try to personalize it to actually tie into that person's job.
So basically, you're working with each individual member in your club and really communicating and having conversations and finding out what they are trying to develop in their work and how this event over here might help them to develop it. And I see. So it's that's the extra work you're talking about.
Yes,
Okay, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's great though.
But-
And you're the VP of education in your
Yes,
club.
yes. But what we did with each of our roles, we asked them to have their own executive. So you could get not only a person to shadow you, you could get a group of persons that will work with a VPE. So they help me do calls, they do so. It motivates them to maybe later take on the role as VPE, but it also makes it less. And of course, with our VPE chats, and so where we can actually help each other. Someone would tell me, or you're having like the health as well team that we had. One of the other VPEs said, you know, this lady survived cancer. Maybe you can have her at your meeting. And I was like, oh, okay, gave me the contact and she presented at our meeting. And so, you know, we get to interact and utilize each other.
And you're involved in your district, you're a district leader. What's your capacity in that?
No, I'm a past district director. I was IPDD last year and I ran for ID. And so I am just PDD, but I am working on the Speakers Bureau for my district. So I'm the Speakers Bureau chair.
Do you travel here to California? Are you doing
Yeah.
presentations for other clubs? That's my last question.
Sorry,
Do you
I
ever
didn't
come
hear
in? I said, do you ever come and do presentations on Zoom for other clubs? Do people invite you? And do you have a specialty talk or about anything in particular that people usually have you there for?
Well, I've had a lot of Zoom meetings on different platforms. Usually the person would tell me what they are looking at, and then I would then tell them if that is in my expertise, and then I would do a Zoom meeting with them. So I go to clubs, I go to districts, I go to divisions, and so I was invited to one of the deck meetings the other day to actually help with how they run the deck meetings. Because one of the things that we introduced in our district during my term was the town hall meetings. And so actually what the town hall meetings was an extraordinary deck meeting, but it was for everyone in the district. So you could come and, you know how town meetings are, and you have the floor. You could tell us, I can't stand those meetings, whatever. And we find out what is the problem with your particular division. So each division has their own meeting. And so everyone, not only the officers, but everyone who is in that division can come to those meetings, you know, and that has worked.
Thank you, Brenda. That was wonderful. Brenda, one thing you said, I really liked your statement. You said, you owe me a speech. And same thing happened to me. I was talking to my clubmate, Jay. I told him, you owe me a speech. He said he's going to send me $100, PayPal me. He's going to give a speech on 8. If he gives the speech, he gets the money back. Otherwise, I get that money.
Whatever works.
See, that's how personal connection works, right?
I
Like,
know, right? Yeah. And I tell her,
you,
I say, you owe me a speech. And I was like, you have done 4 roles. And she's like, okay, Madam VP. And I don't ask them to volunteer. I have a word that's called voluntold. So I voluntold everyone about the different roles I want them to play. So yeah, they are accustomed to me right now.
Pamela, did you still have a question?
Yes, Pamela.
Yes, so basically, in answer to my question is, you would apply the same thing into all the members of the club to get them involved in district events. Helping the VPE with his team or backup or mentor, what you want to call them, would work with that individual member and say, oh, you really want to develop your membership. And then they would find the event on the district website that correlates to that. Is that part of it, to get them
Yes.
in looking at the district more?
So our district has specific trainings that they do. And so they would say, then you don't need to do that in your club. You could just come to the district event. So that way you don't have clubs repeating the same training. So they just do that. And we have it like quarterly, we have trainings, but we also do gala evenings where we just say we are celebrating level 1. So just dress up and come, and all the level 1s are then going to be recognized. And we do video shoots and where we interview persons who have done level 5. And we recently did, what did the path do for you? And where now you have somebody who did a level 5 actually explain the process of the path. And so we try to engage those who are active in motivating those who need to be motivated a little bit.
Yeah, rather than get someone on the outside, try to use the people on the inside that have accomplished things. That's a great idea. Yeah, that's a wonderful idea.
So just in my head, to summarize the 3 things that I learned today is, 1, to invest in personal relationship, whether you are a club officer, a club member, or even a district leader. Do invest in personal connections. Like, you can volunteer people in that case, have them come to your meetings, bring a guest, and do things like that. That's my first takeaway. The second takeaway is, recognition essentially does not need to cost money. We can just give people bragging rights, and a lot of them really enjoy that. So we should keep investing in how to encourage clubs to have bragging rights over multiple things that they do. And thirdly, what I learned was, we just need to celebrate little things, make little things sound big, because they are actually big things impacting life changes, and everything needs to be celebrated. So we need to know our members a little bit, celebrate a little more, and just have a lot of fun. Would that be right, Brenda, to say?
Perfect.
The top 3
Perfect summary.
secrets.
Yes, perfect. In February is Valentine's Day, so we have where we invite all the clubs to send one person, and we do a love speech, and it's just for bragging rights. So which club can actually keep the trophy going and stuff like that. So we get to interact with the different clubs, and, do things outside that are still Toastmaster related, but persons really, and then you're evaluated for that speech, but it's actually, for bragging rights, stuff like that.
That's a really cool idea. We do theme, but I don't think we often do Valentine's Day. So that's pretty cool. Pamela, let's see if anybody else in the room has a question. If not, we'll address your question. Did anybody else have a question for Brenda? Okay, seeing no questions, Pamela, go ahead. Do you have one more question to go?
Yes, as an area director, what is a good way to work with the leaders in your club? Is it good to call them, email them, say you'd like to have a talk? Can I help you? I mean, you don't want to run the club, obviously, but how could you impart some of these to help do these things with the members and the officers together? Do you have any ideas about that? Because I have certain, I have to have certain boundaries, and I'm told that, you just can't go in there and say, you should do this, this, and this. And is it a good idea to call the VPUV and tell them you had a nice talk, or just establish more of a relationship with the clubs? And what do you suggest? Because I'm new at all this.
Yes, one of the things that as Didi, I introduced executive team for every single district leader. So all my division directors, all my area directors had an executive, and this was not Toastmaster with their established one. This one was that you needed 4 people to be on your team. One could be a mentor. One person had to be somebody younger in terms of the club experience. So that was in Toastmasters for 1 year. One person who is your mentor, and it didn't even have to be a Toastmaster. That person just kept you sane. And the other one was a past district director. So with those 4 persons on your team, you could then strategically reach out to the area directors. I encourage them to reach out to the presidents. In our district, we have area directors that do team building activities. They have area directors that assist the clubs in their areas to connect and get together. So it is, as the area director, you are motivating the clubs to achieve. The area directors also have incentives. So we have, the club with the most things, and I encourage everyone to have incentives in their role so that they can actually motivate. So it trickles up. So once the clubs are working well, the area director then, he or she has their job to do. So we, as a division director, we tell all our area directors, we are celebrating in our division now 100% reports in for all our area directors. And so we have a picture of all the 4 or 5 of them, and it moves around. But it was a challenge for them to ask them to please, by this certain date, have all your reports in. So the division director then assists the area director in formulating things to then, go to the club. And so the area director, you can do a lot of things. You can go into the club and say, how can I help you? The area directors in our area would ask, does the club need anything? How can I help you? If you have 1 or 2 clubs in your area that, for instance, are lacking in membership, you can have an area membership drive. And so that you do one big drive, and you ask each of the clubs to come with their stuff and sell their clubs and stuff like that. You can do as an area director. Just need to look at the logistics of what your goal is for your area.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everything you're saying.
One last question, Brenda. How do you motivate members to take officer's role or take a role as an area director?
I had, because of that incentive I did with the 4 persons, my IPDD, when they had to do the officers, we had 101 officers postulating we actually turned away division directors and area directors because it was more than could have, of course, be placed. But because you had those 4 persons that work along with you, and you were then, a lot of them said, oh, I could do this. I thought it was harder, but I can do this. And so we got out of that core 4, most of them, we got a person who says, I want to try to be a district leader.
Thank you, Brenda.
I think this has been an amazing discussion, just talking about how connecting people can change, I would say, their Toastmasters journey, just their day, their mood. And I think it's really important to invest in those. Like, we come down to that one thing, which is not necessarily Toastmaster related, but just being people related. So thank you for sharing all those ideas, Brenda. And I hope
Welcome.
everybody attending today did have at least one idea which they felt that they hadn't talked about or thought about or ever tried out. So it will be a challenge for all of us to go back and maybe just try one idea and see how it goes. And see how it helps you as a person, you as a Toastmaster, you as a club officer, or just as a member. So I challenge all of you in the room to go ahead and try and share your stories with us. With that, we are almost up with our time. I thank you all for attending. Many, many thanks to Brenda for coming in,
Thank you.
sparing her time for us and sharing all these wonderful ideas. Thank you,
And please,
everyone.
thank you for having me.